Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the natal or astrology chart of Ronda Rousey, and many of you may have heard of her. She's very prominent in mixed martial arts. She had an unblemished or infallible record of 12-0 before she recently lost to someone named Holly Holm on November 15, 2015. I still see her as one of the dominant fighters out there. Well, anyway, people, I'm going to start talking about her chart. First thing is, this is going to be part one of two, by the way. Now, her sun in Aquarius, that could be progressive, innovative, and reforming. In many ways, perhaps she's even revolutionized the sport, being so dominant in the way she just subjugates so many opponents. And she's really maybe revolutionized the sport of mixed martial arts. Now, with Aquarius, Sun, MC, and Mercury, she puts her own unique, I guess you could say, spin somewhat on her profession. Now, the moon in Pisces. Now, this could indicate she may be more sensitive than her Gemini rising, which I'm going to get to momentarily. Gemini facade may indicate or show. Now, the emotional needs may include things of a fantasy or fiction nature. Now, I believe she's a fan of wrestling, and the wrestling I'm talking about is the one, of course, with the predetermined, I guess you could say, bouts. So that's kind of maybe that's where that's tied into, and she's apparently a big fan of that. And really, despite her chart being very gregarious and extroverted, the Pisces moon could show that need perhaps for solitude and seclusion from time to time. And I read somewhere on Wikipedia that she can cry easily, and I'm wondering if thinking that might be the Pisces moon tied into that. Well, anyway, she has a Gemini ascendant, and with Gemini rising, she could be multifaceted and versatile. And when she's fighting, she moves and thinks very fastly and very quickly. She certainly makes short work of the majority of her opponents in the ring. Now, I was watching something on TV. It was like a little interview with her, and she was simultaneously putting tape on her hand while she was doing sit-ups or crunches or something like that. And it kind of shows that Gemini needs to be doing more than one thing simultaneously. I thought that was very interesting. And if I remember correctly on Wikipedia, it also stated that in judo, if I'm pronouncing it right, judoku or judoka, I should say, even though I think her dominant hand is right, she was using her left hand strongly in that particular sport. So maybe that's a Gemini rising I guess you could say, not may not be ambidextrous, but she might not be far from it. That Gemini dexterity and that use being with both hands. Now, she has a preponderance of planets above the horizon. 9 of 10 are above the horizon. And this inclines more toward optimism as opposed to pessimism, more extroversion and introversion, and being more objective than subjective. It shows that she really is more about being gregarious and being out with others and being out in the public as opposed to having a private life. And based on her profession, I think it's safe to say that's very true with her. Now, she also has a balance of planets on the left-right side of the chart. There's 4 on one side and 6 on the other. And it shows that she can initiate projects on her own, knows when to do that, and knows when to be self-reliant, and also knows when to ask others for help and collaborate with others on projects. So it shows when she knows. It tells me based on this that she probably knows when to ask for assistance and when not to. She has the majority of the planets in the third quadrant, which is houses 7, 8, and 9. And this could be shows that she could be very relationship oriented, and relationships can figure very prominently in her life scheme. Socializing, transformation in philosophies and through relationships is very possible here, and increasing, broadening horizons, it could be very strong as well. She has no planets in the first quadrant of her natal chart, which are houses 1, 2, and 3. And because of this, I think no one can probably accuse her of being egocentric. Now, it shows that at times she may strongly sacrifice her own personal needs for those of others, and may need to emphasize maybe a little more self-aggrandizement and self-interest to some degree. Now, she also has most or majority of her major influences in mutable signs. And when I say major influences, I'm talking about the 10 planets and the MC and the Ascendant. Now, having the majority of them in mutable signs, it shows she has a strong ability to make the adjustments and compromises with others and in relationships. And it could show strong powers of adaptability. However, on the negative side, it can indicate a lot of vacillation, ambiguity, indecisiveness, and lots of changes of mind. Now, she also has the majority of the major influences in air signs and fire. It's a tie. Now, that gives strong intellectual and communicative ability. That's the air, along with the leadership prowess, which is the fire. And it could show there's a lot of quick thinking and being very verbose, which is the air, good speaking abilities. And also having the 4 in fire can show strong nature that's very exuberant and enthusiastic. Now, her final chart signature is Gemini, and having this in Gemini gives an overall Gemini tone or feel to the chart, but I don't believe it supersedes the Sun, Moon, or Ascendant in the significance. This was actually a tie between Gemini and another sign, but I gave it to Gemini because there were more stronger and personal influences that were in there as opposed to the 4 being in fire. So I thought that the air was stronger than the fire, and it won the tiebreaker. So I gave it to having, as opposed to mutable fire, which would have been Sagittarius, I gave it to mutable air, which is the Gemini. So, but anyway, this could further accentuate or emphasize reinforce the Gemini ascendant characteristics and give her more that Gemini, that versatility and adaptability, and in being in those Gemini qualities are emphasized even more due to the fact she has her final or chart signature in the sign of Gemini. Well, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for the Ronda Rousey Natal Chart Part 1. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be dissertating and talking about the Ronda Rousey Natal Chart Part 2. 2 things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.